Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today we have Carl with us, and Carl is based in Washington, although he originates from Kentucky, but that's where he's based at the moment. And he does some fascinating work. I'm sure you're going to love this when we go through this topic. It's iridology. I mean, Carl, you're just going to have to go in there and just tell us about it. I am absolutely fascinated by it. So tell me about your journey. Tell me what you do, and tell us how you help people as well.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on to talk about it. So, iridology has been a part of my life for about 25 years now. Uh, when when I lived in Kentucky, I think I was around 19 or 20 years old. There was people talking about this. They were calling him an eye doctor, an Amish doctor, all these different names that he had, and he was an iridologist. And so the Amish community was using this practice, and I just wanted to go check it out. I was hearing that he was seeing things in people's eyes and helping them with their healing journey and just certain illnesses, but also like traumas and things that they grew up with. He was seeing things in their eyes that was related to that kind of stuff and not just physical ailments.
Okay.
And so I just went and I got my eyes read by him, and I was just fascinated with it. Like I was just, I couldn't believe that something like this existed. This was so out of the norm of going to a doctor and all this stuff. And so the Amish, have a really unique lifestyle of, completely living off grid. And they made their own herbs. So anything that he told you that you needed help with, they had herbs right there and things like that. And I never experienced really anything with herbs either.
Mhm.
Excuse me. So the whole thing just kind of blew the door open for me of like there's a whole nother world out here of things to experience. And so I went to one of his seminars, I don't know, within the first year of meeting him, and just learned the very basics of what iridology was, and kind of stuck with that for several years, probably over 10 years of just kind of being what I would call a hobby iridologist, occasionally looking in friends and family's eyes and just kind of just keeping it kind of dusty and on the shelf, but breaking it out every now and then. And so it just kept on, calling me though that this was something I needed to do, and I realized that there was like schools for it, and you could get much more education than I had at the time. And that's when I found Dr. David J. Pezic online, and went to his school in 2014 and learned there's just this whole other world that's been developed. What the Amish were practicing was kind of dated all the way back to like the 1950s, and there had been many changes to it in the last 30 years through Bernard Jensen, and then Dr. Pezic was kind of mentored by Bernard Jensen for a few decades, really. And Dr. Pezic made a lot of changes to it, particularly with the thoughts and emotions associated with the brain area.
Yeah.
And so met him in 2014, went through the first couple levels and kind of stayed with that for a year or two, and then finally finished all the courses and became a diplomate of holistic iridology. And, I went through my own, path and healing journey, just like a lot of people did in 2020. I went through a divorce. I got sober. All these shifts happened to me, and it really called me back into it to go all in. And so I've been full on practicing it full time since 2020, and it just keeps growing. And people like you are, reaching out and are interested in it. So it feels good, and it's been there all along, and I'm finally tapping into it. It
Mm.
was always going to kind of nudge me and tell me that you need to be in this world of iridology more than just a hobby. And so that's where I'm at with it today. I have a practice in Amboy, Washington, in the Pacific Northwest. I do travel with it occasionally. I don't travel too far. I go around Oregon and Washington, and am capable of going farther. But for now, that's where I go. I travel with it occasionally, a few times a year, and have a practice in Amboy that I do regularly.
Okay. Can you also do this online?
Yes and no. Sometimes it works to be able to have people take their own pictures. Well, I say take their own, not a selfie. You have someone else do it for you.
Yeah.
It's kind of difficult to get a good picture with a cell phone with brown eyes. It's kind of 50-50 on that one with how well people follow the instructions and the lighting and the environment they're in. But I've had some good pictures sent to me online of people taking their own. I've even had a couple people who have went to these like kiosks in malls where people are doing iris art, and they kind of really doctor it up after they take the pictures. And I call it, give it like a psychedelic vibe to it and things. But there has been some people that have sent me really good pictures from those, and they did happen to have blue eyes, which are easier to photograph. So, but yeah, I always prefer to do it in person. I have a camera that's specifically made for taking pictures of the iris, and but yeah, it is possible to do online, and I do have instructions I can email people to give it a shot.
Yeah. So maybe if you've not got brown eyes, if you've got blue, green, or grey, perhaps.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's impossible with brown eyes. It's just a little harder. And sometimes
harder.
I have to email them back and tell them to try again and adjust the settings and things like that. But yeah, it is possible.
So, like, what can you find? What are you looking for when you're doing this?
Well, so you've probably heard the term the eyes are the windows to the soul. There is characteristics in the iris that are a part of us that go back as far as 62 of our ancestors.
Wow.
So every marking, whether it's just we're talking about the blue eye, the hazel eye, or the brown eye, those have meaning. All the lines and pigments and circles and all these things that people see in an iris all have meaning, and they're the most unique feature. They're more unique than our fingerprints. There are no two irises in the world that are alike, even identical twins. So it's really a true roadmap of you as an individual. It reveals your predispositions, the strengths and weaknesses that you came into this world with. So when you do a full report, I'm basically giving you the keys to your own vehicle that tells you where you've been, where you are, and where you have the potential to go. So I tell people, and in my opinion, it's the least invasive, most preventative healthcare act you can take for yourself, because it lays it out for you, and you always have it as a reference. As I was telling you earlier, I had mine done in 2014, a full report that I could have a copy of. The Amish guy did it 25 years ago, and I have some old notes from that laying around. But when you have these reports done, this is something to hold on to. You can always reference back that, oh, well, maybe this is it, especially when it comes to the preventative part of being aware of your thoughts and emotions. That's one of the most important emphasis on this, is that this is not necessarily current conditions that you have. They're predisposed strengths and weaknesses. And as you go through life, if you have something that's associated with maybe a pancreas weakness that shows up in the eyes, grief and sadness is going to be something that you need to be aware of in your life, that is a normal function. You're going to experience it, but it's how you process it and move through it that'll be important as to whether or not your pancreas will serve you well long term. Now, that doesn't mean everyone who has a pancreas weakness will experience more grief and sadness than the average person or anything like that. It's just important to not suppress it. And so it does. We go through those processes with the kidneys, the lungs, liver, and gallbladder, you name it. There's always a thought and emotion and something to be more preventative of. As I was saying, that it's a predisposed sign. It's not necessarily a current weakness in your body. And that's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's as much debatable, but it's kind of old versus new iridology. Some old iridology really pushed that this is a current physical condition. So you may still find people out there like that have not had more modern education on it, but and they, sometimes they're right, and but you don't ever want to instill fear. You don't ever want to diagnose. It's never that when working with me. I'm just bringing an awareness of what you came into this world with and what you're working with.
Yeah. I mean, I think that certain people store emotions in different organs anyway. So that would show up in your reading. That would it show up that that's what's happening now as well for that person if they've gone through something?
It would vary from person to person, but that's just a conversation to be had when you see it. Like, I when I do live eye readings in person at some of these events I go to, I just ask a simple question. Are you processing a grief right now? And if it's in the left eye, and you ask, are you processing grief right now related to the feminine? Is there a feminine figure that you've lost or that has hurt you or something like that? And sometimes, the answers just come pouring out immediately. Sometimes it goes way back. You know,
Okay.
I've I've had situations my whole life. I've had a few good friends pass away. I've had my mother pass away. And I didn't process any of those emotions till after I started doing the work in 2020 that I told you about. When I got clear,
Yeah.
they were stored in my body. And when I opened up to be able to feel them and let them out, they came flooding out. I processed going all the way back to 1995, some
Okay.
losses that occurred for me, some events that took place. I processed that and things that were like 2008, 2015, on and on I could go, all in
Yeah.
like 2021. The
Wow.
winter of 2021 was my
Wow.
emotional release of a lot of things that I
Yeah.
didn't know still existed in my body.
That sounds like a dark night of the soul journey, that one.
It was.
Yeah. Oh dear. So do you relate to the left eye as feminine, the right to the masculine? When
Yes.
you're looking? Yeah, okay. So if
Yeah.
somebody's got like a weakness in one or the other, would that we be predisposed to genetics maybe? Or would it be because there was something else going on?
Well, the makeup of the iris can go back as far as 62 of your ancestors. So we're talking about great, great, great grandparents. It's not
Yeah,
just mom and dad that make up who you are.
yeah,
It's related to people that you've never known and will never meet in your life. So
yeah.
it varies. Sometimes when there's just a reading doesn't land with someone, and you're just like, none of that makes sense to me. I process my grief in a healthy way. I don't get angry and all these things. It's like, well, you may be carrying it from a grandfather or something. I've learned that along the way too, because I feel fortunate that I have got some answers. I had a grandmother on my mother's side that I never met, but
Mm,
through conversations with other people, I've learned that there's a lot of things that made up who my mom was and who I am by knowing some of the things about her. And then there was a really big breakthrough of knowing some information about my grandfather on my dad's side, of things that happened to him as a child that I literally processed through with him at the same age when I was like 8 years old, and have even felt some of that stuff as a grown man of things that make me up that are a part of him that I came into this world with. So it's really interesting. Like and I try to tell people, it's like, we when we talk about things like ancestral trauma,
mm,
it's not all bad. And so
mm.
there are the strengths. Like I said, this is not all weaknesses that come out in your report. Your strengths come out too. And so we need to always be aware to give thanks for things like that, instead of just like, oh, I got to process all this BS that my grandparents and my ancestors did. Why am I carrying all this burden? It's like, be thankful for it, because at the end of the day, there was a lot of love and light that had to take place in order for you to be here and exist. A lot of people loved each other intimately multiple times for you to be here now. So we need to always give thanks for that. That no matter how wild and wonderful it was,
Mm.
it's not all bad.
Yeah. So you can pick up people's strengths then from looking at that as well. So give me a, for instance, what sort of thing would you find?
Well, so when I was talking about the iris, when we're talking about the structure and the pigments of the color, and the circles and things like that are called
Mm,
lacunas, there's areas of the iris that look really tight and are really structured well, and that there's not a lot of color or lines going through it. So that's going to be a strong area of the body. When you think about the pupil, another circle that goes around the outside of the pupil called the collarette, which represents the colon and stomach area. If that
okay.
is well structured and a not zigzagged out in different directions, and that's going to indicate a healthy colon and stomach area.
Mm,
So that there's definitely strengths in everyone. Not everyone comes into this world weak. Everybody's got something good, or you wouldn't even probably be able to sit in front of me and do an eye reading anyway. So
yeah, true. So what about the color? I've got green eyes. Is there like well, I think there's hazel brown, green, blue, and grey. Are there more than that? Or is that it?
well, I just refer to them as blue, hazel, and brown, and then there's all I guess you could call those subtypes. But basically, a green eye is going to be representative of what you would find in a blue. Not all blue eyes have the same strengths and weaknesses, but there are majority things that are starting points when you're looking in the eyes. So a blue eye, a lot of people with blue eyes have a predisposed weakness of the lymphatic system. So they're going to be more prone to tingling and numbing in their extremities, and going to need to move their bodies more, particularly like shaking or bouncing or rebounding, like on a trampoline. Is always a good practice for people with blue eyes. They're predisposed for kidney weaknesses, so forgiveness will be a big issue for people with blue eyes. Holding on to grudges and not forgiving people and forgiving yourself. If you tend to be the type of person that beats yourself up for things you didn't do in the past, or things that you did do in the past, you gotta step into that world and learn self forgiveness as well. And then the brown eyes are more known for the liver and gallbladder challenges. So anger and resentment will be an issue for people with brown eyes. Most people. I want to be careful to say that. That doesn't mean that everyone with brown eyes has that.
Yeah.
So and then at the end of the day, the hazel is a combination of blue and brown.
Okay.
So they kind of combine with those two. They tend to have more of the pancreas challenges because the brown and blue connection will create more of that orange and yellow look that makes it hazel at the end of the day. So those are the jumping off points to start looking at. If you were just going to look in someone's eyes with a light and lens and just do a quick reading, you go look there first. But like I said, some people have really strong constitutions and they don't have the kidney weakness. They don't have the lymphatic weakness in a blue eye. You'll see a brown eye sometimes that has no indication of a liver or gallbladder challenge, and they might have a kidney challenge though. And like I said, that was a blue feature, but it happens in everyone, and it's different every time. I think that's one thing that being involved in this practice is that I've always thought, like, I don't know that I can reach burnout with this. Like, I enjoy it anyway, but I never go, oh, I've seen this one last year. Let me go look in this folder and just reprint this report. Like, it's never like that. I always start from scratch, and it's a new experience every single time, no matter what.
Yeah. Oh, well, everyone's unique, aren't they? So you couldn't possibly do that, could you? It wouldn't resonate. I'm
Right.
sure, like anybody that does a type of reading would need to be authentic for it to resonate with the person that they're working with, don't they, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. As you wouldn't get any recommendations or people, coming back again, would you? Or like recommending their family member or something like that, or their friends, because, it's also about how people feel with the interaction with you, because you can feel, can't you, if somebody's not being genuine or not, whichever way you
Yeah.
do it, it still comes through. It's an energy thing, isn't it? So,
Speaking of referring family members, I do occasionally, it's happened just a couple times where I have multiple family members. So I have particularly one so there's a grandmother, mother, daughter, and then the son. So it's 4 generations of one side of a family that I do have their eyes that I've been able to look through. And it's interesting when you see it because, like we say, it goes through multiple ancestors.
yeah.
But they're all so unique and different at the end of the day too. But there are some things that are definitely connected between those 4 people, and it's fun to do that. I recommend people give it a shot sometime if they have that many people, even if it's just father and son, mother daughter. It's just to get more than one and compare them. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've heard of it, like connecting. I connected with your partner, Natalie, before, and then
Yeah.
then was introduced to you. And I was, I've never even heard of that before.
Well,
So
so you're in the UK, right?
yeah.
So it's been prominent around the world for many, many years. I mean, iridology, or at least iris analysis in some form, goes back 3,000 years.
Mm.
Um, it's iridology in the United States is one of the big practices that took it on the chin in the early 1900s when the Rockefellers were pushing natural medicine out for pharmaceuticals. And
Yeah.
so, we won't have time to go deep into this, but anyone who's interested in figuring out what I mean by that, just look up the Flexner report. That was a report that was written to write off natural medicine as not working, not useful. Any funding that was going towards universities and schools around the country was pulled if they were going to go that route, because the Rockefellers were like, we're in the oil business now. We're going to start doing pharmaceuticals. And if you want funding, this is the route we're going. And so iridology was pushed out basically because of what I told you earlier, that this puts you in charge of your health. When you have these reports laid out with all these different avenues to go with your predispositions, you have control of your health, and
Yeah.
you have a way of preventing illness. And so, but it's still prominent around the world. I don't know if this is still true today, but I know at least 10 or so years ago in Germany, they had to take a semester of iridology just to be an allopath doctor. And so that's would be unheard of here. But there are iridology practitioners all over the world, and there
Mm-hmm.
always have been. It just kind of was a lost art in the early 1900s until Bernard Jensen in the 70s and 80s really brought it back, and then Dr. Pezic in the early 2000s really took off with it too. So
Mm.
it's slowly coming back. People hear of it. They remember, like I have people that are like, yeah, I remember my mom talking about seeing an iridologist years ago, and I've always wondered what it was like. And so
Mm.
hopefully it continues to grow. But yeah, it was almost a lost art in this country, and it was really pushed out in the early 1900s.
Mm. So if anyone's interested, are there any books on the subject? If somebody wants to have a little look into it.
Well, there are. I can't name any off the top of my head. I know the book that I got from the Amish guy years ago, and I should just say his name. Reuben Schwartz is his name. He's not just an Amish guy, but there's no website or anything linked to him, obviously.
Okay.
But when we did that seminar with him, he handed out what I refer to as the Little Black Book. So there is the books with Bernard Jensen. Um, Unfortunately, Dr. Pezic passed away this past February, and I know that he was in the process of finishing a textbook that was going to go to some universities around the world. I do not know if he got that finished before he passed, or if at least was in a position to go ahead and be published with where it was. It'd be interesting to see if that comes out though, because it was supposed to be like a really thick textbook on everything iridology, its history, and where it is today. But there are books, and I just don't know what to call them. I'm sure you can look on Amazon and just type in iridology, and you'll get old and new charts and old and new books.
Yeah.
The Jensen family still is in practice. I'm pretty sure Bernard Jensen's daughter and maybe grandson, as far as I know, are active iridologists, and I think that his daughter has maybe written a book, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, people can have a little research, can't they, if they're like interested in it and
Yeah.
find out.
I know there's an hour and a half video on YouTube of Dr. Pezic uh, doing it's a clip from a seminar where he just talks about, I think it's called Introduction to Holistic Iridology, would
Oh,
be a good
okay.
video for people to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Because this might ring a bell with someone. They might be thinking about, I might be just drawn to it. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, if they're like watching and they're in your facility, over in the States, they can also message you and get in contact with you. Honestly, like in the UK, I mean, give it a try. Especially if you've got the lighter colour eyes, which will be easier for Carl to look at.
Yeah.
Maybe able to just do it, mightn't you? No, I think it's fascinating. Oh, I love it. I was going to ask you, would you mind like sharing some of the bits that was in your actual reading? I know you said it was a long time ago you had yours done, but you said over time you felt like it started to, it was true, it rang true for you.
Yeah, I mean, when I originally had it done, I wasn't in a good place to receive that kind of information. I struggled with alcohol and kind of ignored a lot of things that I wasn't exactly practicing what I preach at the time. Um, but that all changed in 2020, and I did dust it off. And it was 6 years old or something. And so I did dust off the report that Dr. Pezic done for me, and it helped me get a lot of answers that I needed at the time for kind of restarting my life. There were fear and self-esteem issues that were revealed in that report that dated back all the way to uh, when I started drinking as a teenager. And it just kind of gave me some answers to why. And I felt really fortunate for that because a lot of people don't get to know why
Hmm.
things happen. And I've been really fortunate to know some things about my ancestors and my own journey as to why I perceive things the way I did as a child. But yeah, there's definitely on a physical level the stomach and colon issues that have developed later in life, probably because of all the beer that I drank that did not serve me well. But I had weaknesses in those areas, and it's been a healing journey just on the physical level for that as well. But yeah, it revealed a lot, and some of it, you don't know. It's a strength and weakness that you came into this world with, and if you don't feel it at the moment, uh, you just have to take it for what it is, and know that if it does come up later in life, especially on the thoughts and emotions level, it will serve you well to process those in a healthy way. I've I think I mentioned earlier I went through a lot of grieving in the winter of 2021, and
Mm.
I'm thankful for that because I do have a weaker sign in my pancreas, and I had been holding on to that stuff for 20, 30 years, and so I feel that there was a weight that came off. There was some energy that left the body that needed to, and that certainly served my pancreas well to let that stuff go.
Yeah. Just out of interest, I had a conversation today with somebody, and their friend has just been diagnosed with what do you call it when you fit all the time, when you have fits? Um, God, it's going out of my head.
Are
Uh,
you saying fits?
fits, yeah. And they're in hospital at the moment. They're only young, and they had a fit and hit their head, and they're not in a good place. Now, would that have showed up in their eyes if they'd had their eyes done?
I'm not sure. Are you like when you say fit? Are you mean like a seizure or something?
Yes, that's it. Epilepsy. Yeah.
Okay. Not specifically. You wouldn't be able to dial it in as specific as that. Um, there could be something that through conversation that could reveal that, but no, I don't think there's going to be a sign in the iris that says you are predisposed to have seizures or epilepsy or specifically. That's too much of teetering on the diagnosis
Oh,
realm that I don't delve into with iridology.
okay. I just wondered if there's something like that would show up in somebody's reading. I mean, say that she had this reading before and then this just happened, whether there would have been an inkling in there somewhere that it was a
Yeah,
possibility.
there could be, but it wouldn't be specifically named that if I was doing it to
Yeah.
say that that's showing up in the iris.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose you've got to be careful of like giving out diagnosis. Some people do literally take it to heart, don't they? With
Yeah.
everything you say. Yeah, I guess you've got to be careful with that. So, like, do you need any special equipment to do it? You just a light?
Well, I do have a specific camera, which is called the Pezic Iris Multiflex, and it's built specifically for taking pictures of the eyes. I do. Other than that, no. The old style is just a small flashlight and a magnifying glass, basically, and I can do that in person without the technology, and that's how the Amish still do it. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I have the camera. I have the a monitor, like basically a big computer monitor that I blow the eye up on when I'm taking the picture to get it zoomed in really well.
Yeah.
And then, I use a computer and laptop and things like that to do the analysis on. But now someone just wanting to get into the basics of it would just need an iris chart and a light and lens, and you could start hobbying around with it like I did many years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fascinating hobby, isn't it? And maybe
Yeah,
but it wasn't by chance you met that fella, was it? Let's face it, if you've been doing it like further on down the line, you didn't
yeah,
chance meeting, was it? It was like a destiny meeting that you were going to do it at
yeah.
some
I
point.
believe it was.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. Have you trained anybody else? Are you thinking about training anyone else to do it?
I haven't specifically trained anyone. There's definitely a time and place coming where I will do a basic introduction to iridology at some point, probably at our wellness collective in Amboy.
Yeah,
Um, may or may not record that to put it on YouTube. I don't know, but there's definitely it's coming at some point to be able to just teach people the basics,
yeah,
just to be able to do it within their own families and have an iris chart and a light and lens, like I was saying, and
yeah.
be able to get just some of those basic things down.
Yeah, that would be really cool if you do that. I'll share it on mine if you do it. Reach out
Yeah,
to people that you've had podcasts with. I'm sure that they'll share it for you, get the word out. I
thank you.
can't be the only one interested. Have you done many podcasts?
I think you're maybe the fourth one I've ever done.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
early days yet, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of been a thing that's came up in the last year or so. I've been asked to do a few of these, so it's been a unique experience. Yeah,
Hmm.
I do
But
better doing this than I do talking into the screen by myself. Like that's one thing I struggle with to get content out on social media. Is it's just something I don't know. I don't see how people do it to just talk into their phone. Um, I just struggle. I get lost for words. Like even if I know exactly what I'm wanting to talk about, I can't get it out. It's just so
yeah,
weird seeing me and knowing it's just me talking into this device. So it's always good to do this with people and get it out there this way because at least
yeah.
you're on the other side of the screen and I am talking to someone. So
Yeah. Well, it is a bit of a journey, I think. So I have done podcasts where I'm just talking, but you're always self-critical, and you have to get past that. Even with doing these, I mean, I don't edit mine, as you know, and it is what it is. And I just think, it takes a bit of practice. I don't know how many I've done now, but if you're used to speaking to people, I think it's easier. That's what just to be yourself and just chat and be. So the people that be watching this that will know me, I'll be talking to you exactly how I'll be talking to them anyway. So it's familiar. But I
yeah,
think you do get used to it. It is a bit off-putting to start with, thinking, oh, because it messes with your mind. You think all these people are going to be looking, if you're lucky. All these people will be looking. But other than that, it's generally people that know you anyway that are going to go and have a look and see. But I mean, I think you're in my private group anyway, aren't you, on
I think
Facebook?
so. Yeah.
So when we're done, I shall tag you in there so everyone can connect with you. So if anybody's interested, they can come and have a chat with you and connect with you and perhaps like see if there's a way that they can do it and have their eyes done by
Okay.
you. Because like you're obviously familiar, I think it's always better to go with somebody that you've connected with, isn't it? Um,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't have just found you off the internet and gone, hey, Carl, do you want to get on my podcast? It just wasn't going to happen. It's
Yeah.
like because I've spoke to Natalie already, and I thought, yeah, that would be really cool. How is she, by the way? Is she good?
She's well. She's staying very busy. We both farm together as well, and so it's peak spring going into summertime right now. So everything's growing like crazy, and just trying to get ahead before we get behind.
Yeah, and it's early morning for you as well. What time is it for you now?
It's probably around 7:30 in the morning now.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on. I know you've got things to do. So is there anything else that you want to share on your podcast before we go?
No, I appreciate your interest in it and being willing to share this with people. You know, like we talked about earlier, it's not something that's well known, especially in the United States.
Yeah.
I do have a website called KyleMaysIridology.com, a Facebook page that's called Kyle Mays Iridology. People can book with me, and when we're talking about doing it long distance, you can just book the discovery call if you have questions, and we can talk about what that would look like in person or long distance. And yeah, I just want to thank you for having me on and sharing this with your people in the world.
Oh, no, it's amazing. Thank you. I do really appreciate your time. All your links will go below, but it does also go out on a podcast that people can hear. So it's good that you've said where they can find you on that because they'll be just listening to it, perhaps on earphones or doing something else. So that's cool. So it'll go on both.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'll keep track of you on Facebook to see what you get up to and see if there's anything there that you can share with me a bit later that I can pop up for my people that watch. And if you do the live, let me know. I will share it for you.
All right. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Carl. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.